Our next session is Building a Positive Classroom Environment, Domain 1 and 2, Teacher-Scholar Rapport and Social Emotional Learning. Our learning targets include educators will be able to answer the following questions. What does it mean to build a positive classroom environment? Why is it beneficial? Why and how does cooperative learning, i.e. engagement strategies, impact this process? How do we maintain positive classroom environments, i.e. jobs, collaborations, and mutuality? Do Now Activator. Directions. Write down if you agree or disagree with the following quote, and why or why not. Be prepared to vote with your feet and share your answer with a new partner, either 2 people, a group, 4 people, or the entire class, 20 plus people. Agree or disagree. Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. When they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. Dr. Brene Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection. Agree or disagree. Go ahead and write down in your note-taking guide if you agree or disagree with this statement and explain why or why not. Pause the video if you need more time. Listening activity. Watch The Power of Relationships in Schools video and write the rationale. Why should relationships be a priority? Do relationships really matter? Why or why not according to current research? Let's see how this connects with your possible responses.
You had so much to offer yesterday. You okay?
I'm tired.
So what's going on?
Strong relationships are central to the learning process. What the science of learning and development tells us is that we need to create learning environments which allow for strong, long-term relationships for children to become attached to school and to the adults and other children in it.
When children have experiences of closeness and consistency and trust, oxytocin is released. Oxytocin has many, many positive effects on the development of the brain. So when we think about a relationship, we're not just talking about being nice to a child. We're talking about a child having an experience of attunement and trust strong enough to release the hormone oxytocin.
Good morning, Ariella. How you doing today?
The purpose of the morning greeting is to connect with them and to just make sure that I'm seeing them as humans. Like I'm making that relationship with them, making that bond.
I prioritize relationship building because getting to know them is the best part of the job.
When I come in the morning, we usually talk about things that are happening in our community.
We're trying to build caring and respect.
The teacher is trying to understand who I am and my values as a person.
When I have a free 45 minutes or an hour, I think to myself, I could sit down and catch up on grading, or I could go and make connections, whether it's a smile or a joke or a reminder. It validates their presence in the building.
Rock it out in the art room. It starts from so much honesty and transparency with kids. It's really easy to strive to be this like idealized, always ready to go elementary school teacher, and that's not real and that's not human. When people start talking about other things while I'm still giving directions, it feels frustrating for me and I have to take a breath. My students connect most with me when they see that I also struggle and I also have challenges. It takes a lot of vulnerability on my part.
Total familiarity.
When that student knows that you care about them, when they know that you're a human,
Let's think about that.
their academic performance in your class is going to be better.
If I'm comfortable around them, then I'm more confident around them, and it's easier to ask questions and things like that.
So when you're looking at this graph, what is it that you think happened?
Some teachers I don't always get along with the best, so then sometimes I'm like, I can't do it, so I'm just not gonna do it. But when I like the teacher, I want to do their work. I'll be like, I can learn this.
You all have done outstanding work.
Emotion and learning are completely connected. If you're in a positive emotional space, if you feel good about yourself, your teacher, that actually opens up the opportunity for more learning.
Good to see.
All right. And so here we have it, the power of relationships in schools. We heard that it's not just about being nice to scholars. This isn't just about likability, although likability is important, right? And so we have the power of relationships in schools. You were asked, why should relationships be a priority? Do relationships really matter? Why or why not, according to the research? So hopefully you were able to jot down a few things that this video mentioned about why this should be a priority, why it really does matter, and according to research and studies, according to neuroscience, human health research, and just educational research in general. And so now, our debrief. What would you tell an educator who thinks and says that it is not my job to get scholars to like me? They don't need to like me or to connect with me to be successful. Leave me alone and let me do my job. What would you say to this educator based on the notes that you wrote down that you heard from this video and or your personal philosophy in prioritizing relationships? Pause the video so that you can draft your response. Now, you're going to be asked to vote with your feet. This means you'll stand up and you'll cast your vote for the options that are provided with your feet. Read the following statement by Dr. Brene Brown. Do you agree or disagree? Why or why not? Be prepared to share your answer with a pair partner, a group, or the entire class. You'll stand on the left side of the room if you agree, or the right side of the room if you disagree. And if you're virtually, you can lean to that side or move your chair to that side of your computer screen. Connection is why we're here. It is what gives purpose and meaning to our lives. The power that connection holds in our lives was confirmed when the main concern about connection emerged as the fear of disconnection. The fear that something we have done or failed to do, something about who we are or where we come from, has made us unlovable and unworthy of connection. Agree or disagree? Let's have a strategy generator to enhance our toolkit. Sharing is caring. Let's share ideas and specific strategies for how to decrease the potential of scholar fear and anxiety in the following areas. Collect a marker, a post-it note, and post your ideas. You have 2 minutes. Disconnection. What if I don't have any peers or adult support? What are some strategies we can use to help a scholar who feels disconnected? Then we have my actions or inactions. What if I don't fit in with the current culture? What strategies can we use so a scholar doesn't feel bad about not fitting in, but is confident about their ability or their organic ability to stand out? Then we have my identity. What if who I am and where I come from is a reason for others not to like me or to see my value? What strategies can support this effort as well? Go ahead and pause the video and take your 2 minutes and take the time that you need to reflect what specific activities you would use in your classroom and or in your school to support scholars in having a healthy identity, healthy actions and inactions, and knowing that they're going to fit in. They might sign up for band or track or become an athlete or become a musician or really find your tribe and finding your purpose and the thing that you find joy in. And last but not least, this connection won't be a challenge if our scholars know their support system. And so as we continue to go throughout the training today, we will constantly be building strategies and modeling strategies for you to enhance your toolkit for how to build a positive rapport with scholars and how to help facilitate scholar-to-scholar rapport. In the strategy generator, you can introduce positive social emotional topics that will through the use of the stories or storytelling. The following book I'm from, it speaks to identity. It speaks to the region that this young man grew up in, and it allows the reader to get to know where the scholar comes from and the lifestyle that the scholar has. So books can definitely help guide discussions. We also have another book by Jacqueline Woodson, The Day You Begin, and a book by Marie Brandt, Mama, Where Are You From? To cultivate meaningful connections, we must commit to three things. One, develop grounded confidence. To develop grounded confidence, it means that you want to practice courage. You want to practice courage, rumble with vulnerability, stay curious, practice humility, commit to mastery and practice, embody and connect with yourself. The next one is practice the courage to walk alongside. To be able to do this, it means that you commit to being others focused. Practice compassion. You will practice empathy, non-judgment, share power with, and power to be rational, and to set and respect boundaries. And lastly, we practice story stewardship. We want to make sure that we're listening. We stay curious and we discover. We want to make sure we believe, acknowledge, and affirm. So with that, we'll use the PLA teacher rubric, Domain 1, Indicator 3. Watch the following video and be prepared to share if they are the example or non-example of effective professional practices that help to build positive classroom environment. Be prepared to share your rationale, why or why not. According to the rubric, effective teacher and scholar rapport looks like the follow. Attitudes and interactions between teacher and scholars are mostly positive and respectful. The teacher uses respectful dialogue, makes connections with individual scholars, uses scholars' interest to build on instruction, uses language that inspires confidence, effort, and persistence in the face of challenges. And our scholars, the way that they live this out loud is to exhibit respect for the teacher, treats classmates overall with respect, and they interact with one another in a positive manner. The cooperative learning strategies, the turn and talks, the votes with your feet, the discussion and dialogue all help to establish and to set a culture for learning and to let scholars know that it is an expectation for you to share with others. So we'll play the video and see if this is an example or a non-example.
So when they say that Lily is imagining things,
getting students to do what you ask when you ask is a necessary teaching skill.
about lots of things that most people wouldn't normally think about. Okay? So when we're thinking about
This is
that,
Juliana
I want you to
Worrell.
keep that
One
in
of her
mind
students
as you
in this
read the rest
lesson
of the
isn't as
story.
attentive as she
Lily has a
wants, so she
very
immediately stops
active,
talking
as you were
in
saying,
the middle of her
active
sentence.
imagination. So she thinks about things that
Doing this shows that what she says is necessary and important. That makes kids more likely to listen. Juliana makes it very clear, with a minimum of words and no lecture, that she expects attentiveness.
when you first meet someone, but
Let's watch it one more time.
most people wouldn't normally think about.
You'll notice the distraction is hardly a major one.
I want you to keep that in mind as you read the rest of the story. Lily has a very active, as you were saying, active imagination. So she thinks about things that
We call that catching it early. Addressing off-task behavior while it's still small makes the fix
them being
simple.
spies, like them doing a science experiment.
Okay, now looking at the rubric and the effective characteristics, is this an example of effective teacher and scholar rapport? If so, why or why not? What are the characteristics for the scholar and or the teacher that you saw demonstrated in this video? Pause the video if you need more time. Now we'll watch another video and we'll do the same thing. Determine if the teacher and scholar rapport Is it an example, a positive example, or a non-example? Same characteristics as we just practiced earlier.
I just heard a phone in my class. Who got a phone? Paris, you got a phone in my class? No, I ain't got no phone. What did I tell you about bringing a phone in my class? Where is it? I ain't got no phone. Oh, you think you're slick? You think you slick? Think I wasn't going to find it? I'm going to teach you a lesson.
Ooh. Now you dead wrong for throwing that girl phone up in the trash like that.
Hey, if you want it back, you go get it.
All right, bet. When I call my dad, he come up here, then what?
I'll beat your dad up. Ooh. Now go get it. Look, a little dumpster diver.
Call my dad. Let me call my dad.
Now, looking at the rubric, where does this fall on the teacher and scholar rapport? Are you able to identify how many scholars are in the classroom so that when we look at our percentages at the bottom, it aligns with not just the words, but also the quantitative data as well? So it's safe to say the last video is a positive example. This video is a non-example. Attitudes and interactions between the teacher and scholars are rarely positive and respectful. And then 50% or less of the attitudes and interactions are positive. Again, all of the other scholars are involved in this very public situation, which could have been literally a conversation between the scholar and the teacher. There's a lot of pointing. There's threatening to beat up parents and her, following through on that by telling her dad what's occurring. The teacher mocking and shaming the scholar for picking their cell phone out of the trash can. There's just a list of non-examples. This is not what we want to see in our schools. It does not promote good rapport, and it ruins relationships. All right, it's time for dynamic practice. So be prepared to share strategies, demonstrate these strategies by modeling them, showing and telling them, and coaching your fellow colleagues. The expectation is 100% participation. So ready, set, let's go. And with that being said, a healthy connection equals rewarding relationships. And so we have some activities that we expect to see in our schools that help our educators demonstrate respect and boundaries, morning greetings and meetings, and my mood, my responsibility, positive mood strategies. What are some things that you would do in all these categories to support building that positive rapport and setting a positive, healthy culture and climate? So here we go. The first is the respect talk. Yes, yes, yes. One way to establish a positive rapport is to have the respect talk with scholars. This discussion should happen on day one of school. Simply ask the scholars to write 3 things that they like or do not like that happens in the classroom with their classmates. They'll start telling you about, essentially, they're defining what respect is, specifically for our younger scholars. And we see some examples on the slide. I will show respect. That means I will listen to others. I will follow the rules. I will be an honest person. I will be responsible. I will be kind to others, and I will be helpful. And then at the bottom, you see where this is an example of some of the things that a classroom discussion might come up with. Teacher, classmates, and what does it look like in our school-wide plan for what being respectful looks, feels, or sounds like. But it's really important to have this discussion and have your scholars to start talking through it. Let's remember that respect is not a common sense word because it relies on individuals to share with shared culture. Since most of us don't have shared culture, and our scholars come from very different cultures, meaning different beliefs, traditions, and experiences, discussions about respect will help to establish common knowledge, common understanding, and common demonstration. And common knowledge is having a shared understanding of facts. What is the definition of respect, right? But a common understanding is, what does that respect look, feel, or sound like? Being able to make connections and establish expectations. And then the common demonstration is, how do we live this out loud? What should our responses look like? What are the rewards, incentives, and or consequences for respecting and or having the lack of? So our respect challenge. This is another activity. This is how we would facilitate our respect conversation in the classroom. You could have every scholar write down something on a Post-it note or a couple of Post-it notes. You could do a whole group discussion, and you The teacher can use chart paper to establish what our scholars are saying. We're going to model that right now. So collect 4 post-it notes and write one way to show respect, dot, dot, dot. Scholar to teacher, teacher to scholar to scholar, and the school-wide community towards the outside community. Be prepared to share. So we are an entire city within our school, right? But then when some of our scholars, how do we treat others outside of our school building? So we'll give you a couple of minutes, write down the 4 areas and how you would define what it means to respect scholar to teacher, teacher to scholar, and community inside out. Some examples might include the following. Scholar to teachers. The scholars might want the teacher to learn their names. Please call me up, not out, in front of my classmates. Get to know me and my culture. Respect that I am unique and not like anyone else. Assume the best intentions. Teacher to scholar. Call me Mr. or Miss. Work hard like I do for you. Follow directions to keep you safe and to protect our learning space. Listen attentively. Follow directions on the first time. Treat your classmates like they are important. Number 3, scholar to scholar. Call each other by name, share supplies, help your classmate, be kind and considerate, assume the best intentions, say please and thank you, treat others how they want to be treated. And then community inside out. Listen to school volunteers and staff members, be quiet in the hallway, follow school rules. Walkers, please be kind to nearby community residents. Walk on the sidewalk, not their lawn, and throw your trash away. No littering. These are just some examples of what respect should look, feel, and sound like amongst our community. Morning greeting and meeting. Watch the video and listen for 3 to 4 strategies that are used to support building a positive rapport and social emotional learning tools for scholars. Be prepared to share. This is specifically for our kindergarten through 5th grade educators.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. All right, who else wants to share how they're feeling today? Blessing, how are you feeling today?
It's Fun Friday and I get to go see my auntie tomorrow.
You get to see your auntie tomorrow? Does she live far away or close by?
Far.
Far. Why do you love to see her so much?
She's awesome.
She's awesome. Oh, make sure you tell her that when you see her. People love to hear compliments. Okay. Okay, one more. My morning meeting is an activity I do every morning for about 10 to 15 minutes to kind of set the tone for the day, and it's part of my social emotional learning curriculum. Good morning. Morning, Sebastian. Welcome back, sir. We missed you yesterday. Good morning, Miss Blessing. Morning, Araceli. So even before they enter my classroom, the social emotional learning is beginning. So I go and I pick them up outside. I say good morning to them there, greet them with a smile. Even if I'm having a bad day, I always have to smile and put everything to the side. And then we walk together to the door, and then that's where we do the greeting. And I love that greeting because it's a choice. So if they feel like giving me a hug today, they give me a hug. If they feel like giving me a high five, it's a high five. And then I have some, today's just a wave, they want to give me a wave. And I always say good morning, or I give them a compliment about what they're wearing. Or if I have a student who is out, oh, thank you, I'm glad you're back today. Just to let them know that I do care and I am noticing when they're here, and I'm letting them know that it's important that they're here. Hi, Miss Genesis. Are we going to talk today? Yes? No? All right, so we always start with our feeling check today. All right, so if you're feeling a little angry today, put a 1 close to your heart. If you're feeling a little sad, a 2 close to your heart. If you're tired, a 3 close to your heart. If you're happy, a 4 close to your heart. And if you're excited, a 5 close to your heart. I am 5 today. Very good. So we have lots of feelings today, lots of mixed feelings. Anybody want to share why they're feeling a certain way today? So my morning meeting begins with the feeling share, so the sharing, and that kind of gives me a feel of the class pulse. Let's start with Hannah. You're a little angry today. You want to share why you're angry?
Because my brother, he gets me mad.
Are you comfortable sharing why he makes you mad?
Because I remember he bought a toy and he has a toy hammer. When I went inside the office, my brother had hammered my backpack, so that's why I'm mad.
Oh, so her brother wasn't respecting her belongings, huh? That would make me angry too. Yes, I would feel very angry if someone went and put a hammer on my purse. Huh? Kind of the same thing? Yeah. Thank you. And the reason why we discuss the sharing is so then that can lead to a discussion about how to handle those feelings and let them know that those feelings are okay. I always let them know any feeling you have is justified, but we just have to learn how to handle those feelings properly. So the morning meeting sets up those discussions for me. My students need that opportunity to let me know if something's going on, and I have to validate those feelings for them, and then most of the time they're ready to learn after. Yes, it's very important for them because then it's going to be on their mind all day or they're going to be distracted. So I have to eliminate any distraction that I can and reduce the stress in their brain. Their brains are stressed out, so I have to.
So this educator describes a couple of things. One, making sure to greet the scholars at the door so she can get a pulse check on where the scholars are, what their moods are, if they have any needs, etc. Also, during that circle time, they talk about their mood and their emotions, and they're able to rate using a fist of 5. 1 if you're angry, 2 if you're sad, 3 if you're tired, 4 if you're happy, and 5 if you're excited. So scholars doing this every day helps them to start again communicating their emotions and what they need. So powerful opportunity, great strategies for us. This is the PLA way for sure. Meeting scholars at the door, they selective greeting, entering the room, sitting in a circle, fist of 5. All of these different strategies are powerful. Community time or advisory. So some of our high schoolers may have a different setup where it's more of an advisory setup. And so let's look at the 6th through 12th grade model.
Part of our focus in terms of SEL is to become more aware of our emotions and reactions. So Rashad is the character who gets
abused by the police officer.
Do you see these things happening?
I've seen it happen to others.
Because our kids participate in daily advisory, they feel more connected to our school community. They feel like they know themselves and others around them better. And we have huge accomplishments in our kids' learning outcomes.
We're going to begin just with 2 minutes of mindfulness.
The nest is our daily advisory.
Think about inhaling and exhaling.
We're really reflecting on what we are proud of about ourselves.
We're really focused on 2 things. One is literacy.
Right after this part right here.
And the other one is social emotional learning.
I really want you to think on who you are, what you represent, things that you're going through. At Procone, we want to increase discussion-based classrooms. A class is never going to look discussion-based if the kids aren't comfortable talking in front of each other because they're worried they'll be made fun of or they're worried that they'll have the wrong answer. So we build family mindset, getting to know each other, talking through goals, talking through setbacks, the good things of life, the hardships of life. Y'all just put in your own words. That's like the best part. Like, I'm supposed to explain something I don't know how to do. I don't know what
We can talk about anything we want, tell our teacher just everything. You get to know other students better and create a bond with each other.
I'm proud to be a strong woman. I'm proud of being a volleyball player. And I am proud of Miss Tilly and her hard work.
And then the second part of the nest is spent reading a novel together.
We are going to dig back into this book.
Really great novels lead to great conversations, and they're perfectly aligned with social emotional learning. I believe literacy is a civil rights issue in this country. We consider our citizens literate at 9th grade or higher, and the vast majority of my kids are below that. And that means they're not engaging our society, our democracy, in a way that is empowering and participatory. So if there is one thing we put a lot of energy around, it is trying to help our kids become readers.
We are reading a book called All American Boys.
I didn't want to hear my father preach about how young black people lack pride and integrity, making us easy targets.
We want to broaden kids' capacity to enjoy reading by having deep conversations about the subjects and themes that kids live out. So in the middle of page 100, you've got this cop who represents this abuse of authority, and you had a reaction to that.
People abuse their authority when they get it.
Conversation today was about mistrust between authority and community. When our kids read that, there's a guttural reaction that takes place.
Like, it just make us so mad. This boy, he got beat up by a police officer. When I heard that, like, I instantly, it just draw me into it, because like that's something like I see, I go through every day.
Like a lot of this stuff is actually happening.
Right, like there's a lot of police brutality going on. Sometimes it kind of releases some rage.
That still goes on to me.
So it's access to text and giving them the ability to face each other, look each other in the eye, and have conversations around significant topics.
I want to say altercation, but then...
The Nest lays the ground for academic learning. It holds kids to higher standards and to higher expectations.
In this book.
It's a time to build community and to make certain every kid has at least one individual in the building that invests personally in his or her best.
Our Nest is a family.
Somos familia.
I feel like I could talk about anything I need to in here.
Looking at the data, they've grown in learning and have become people who are increasingly more aware of who they are and care for others. All of that is directly linked to social emotional learning and the work that happens in the Nest.
You guys have changed and grown up so much this year, and I'm so lucky to know you.
All right, community time or advisory. And so hopefully you were able to capture 3 to 4 strategies that are used to support, again, in the high school setting, building that positive rapport and social emotional learning. We had a lot of different strategies that were shared for this one as well: sitting in a circle, lights off, breathing exercises, real world or culturally relevant issues, self-affirmation statements, literacy, scholar-to-scholar discussions. It was rich with information and examples. How do we do that? Let's go ahead and practice a social emotional strategy right now. My mood, my responsibilities. It's going to be really important to help scholars to learn 4 corners. We're going to use this as our cooperative learning strategy. But we want you to stand up and go to the corner that represents your mood when you woke up this morning. So start there. Identify the word. If it's kindergarten, they can do this as well with the 4 emojis in the middle. Next, you're going to do a second rotation where you ask, now, where are you right now when it comes to your mood? Right? From anyone in the red and the blue zone, this is important for every teacher to know when every scholar comes in the room, what zone are they in? If you have someone in the red and blue zone, then they need to be under watch care, meaning this is a scholar that you will track throughout the day to see how they're doing, to see when they come out of that unpleasant space and to enter into the pleasant space. All of these things are important because it helps scholars to arm themselves with the strategies they need and to empower them to know that their mood is their responsibility and to help them know what they need, to ask for what they need when they have a tough moment. Step 2 says, what can you do to move from the unpleasant to the pleasant with a healthy energy level? The next, this is just information to build toolkit. This is my mood, my responsibility. Understanding that our teachers don't have to be a guru, an expert in social emotional learning, right? There are so many different resources for the scholar who needs movement and music to support their well-being. Perhaps they can do a sit-down workout activity. They can do a team chair fitness activity. They can stand up and do a dance and DJ activity. They can do Movely, which does a lot of stretch. They can do a Just Dance if they love dancing. They can do a teacher-led Simon Says, or some breathing and meditation exercises. And these links here are just some examples of things and access that we have to that are free on the internet. Dynamic practice 2. Healthy connections equals rewarding relationships. We're going to practice some attention and quiet signals, share our story, and shout outs, gratitude, and snowball toss. Some activities that can help us the start of the school year to ensure that we set a positive tone and a positive rapport. This, you're going to watch the video and listen for 2 to 3 attention signals that may be used to capture the attention of the scholars effectively. Be prepared to share.
Because it is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and portable. Let's watch.
Boys and girls, may I please have your attention? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent job.
Notice she's speaking in a firm voice, but not shouting. And swinging her arm from a 9 o'clock position to 12 o'clock gives a strong visual cue and prompts the students to raise their hands also. With a technique like this, even the students who weren't initially paying attention will see their classmates raise their hands and join in. Another reason this signal is effective is that it can be used anywhere inside the classroom and out, and combines both visual and audio elements. Other signals are not as effective because they lack one or all of these features. For example, flicking the lights only works indoors and is not a signal that you can carry elsewhere, like onto the playground. Watch as this teacher, who usually flicks the lights to get her students' attention, is trying to get her students' attention outside. Although clapping your hands provides both visual and auditory cues, it requires repetition, and it may be a while before you have all of the students' attention. If you've found a signal other than the one we've described in detail here that works for you, by all means stick with it. If not,
So here we have some activities and some examples. We're going to utilize this time to have our educators to actually practice. So dynamic practice requires that our educators share specific strategies that they utilize and to have them demonstrate the strategies. And so have them practice with us. We've provided on the screen just a few that you can use as an example, or if you have your own as a trainer, feel free to do that as well. But the verbal call and response. So our video tells us that we need to have a call and attention signal that is verbal and nonverbal. That requires a nonverbal gesture as well, because we never know when we will need their attention. And if they're talking, if they're using their outside voices and they're outside, it requires us to get extremely loud just to capture their attention. So the teacher in this situation, if you want to use quote call and responses, as you see here, the teacher, which stands for T and S is for scholar, it says, the teacher says, if we climb the mountain, the scholars will say, we will reach the top. However the teacher says it, the scholars have to echo. If we climb the mountain, the scholars will say, we will reach the top. And we do everything in threes because that repetition is important to stamp it into the brain. By the third time, you should have 100% scholar attention, and their voices should be off by the third time they make that statement. Another quote is, a person who never made a mistake, the scholar says, never tried anything new. The teacher says, a person who never made a mistake, the scholars say, never tried anything new. Last one is 1, 2, 3. The teacher says that, and the scholar says, all eyes on me. And then we have a nonverbal clap pattern, whatever clap pattern the teacher creates. Then we have the hybrid, verbal and nonverbal. Hear my voice clap once. Hear my voice clap twice. Hear my voice stand up, voices off, attention out. This might be great for older scholars, middle school or older. To capture their attention, it requires them to stand up. Or hear my voice clap once, hear my voice clap twice, hear my voice, take a deep breath, which helps to reset the tone. And then lastly, a celebration. We say power clap, 1, 2, 3, and everyone does one big clap together. Another strategy that helps build rapport is find the fiction, a way to allow scholars to tell their story in a less than in a safe and brave way, but it also promotes trivia as well. And so an example might be to say they get an index card, they number it 1, 2, and 3, and they write two statements that are true about them and one statement that is false. That statement would be the fiction, and the goal is to find the fiction. So an example might be a scholar may say, I can play the guitar, I have a pet dog named Sparky, and I speak 3 languages. Two of those statements are true, and then one is not. So it's really important because at the beginning of the year, the teacher can collect all these index cards, and every day the class can try to guess about this particular scholar which of those things, two things are true and which one is false, and then the scholar can kind of expand and share their story. Affirmation is key. Teacher to scholar, scholar to scholar, and scholar to teacher. Watch the video and listen for the 60-second shout-out strategy that may be used to affirm desired behavior, culture and climate, and academic thinking or performance. Be prepared to share the practice.
Front table shout-outs.
I have a shout out for Annalia. She got to work really fast.
A shout-out is a positive comment given from one peer to another. Shout-outs are such an effective strategy for anyone, and you can throw them in anywhere. They're easy, they're quick. The first thing is a ding on my little chime, which gets everyone's attention. I see almost everybody. I will ask each group to give a shout-out to someone that they noticed was doing a particularly good job or doing something that was difficult for them.
I have a shout out for Dan and Alex because she was working really hard on her chicken.
Awesome, awesome. It's not just me as the teacher saying, you're doing well. It's a way for them to interact with each other and celebrate positivity. We notice, we focus on the things that are going well.
I have a shout out to Jamari because he was reading good.
Yeah.
All right, so this 60-second shout out strategy allows literally 1 minute for our scholars to be able to see what's working, what's going well. And that's so important in a world where we can see so many things that are not going well. This models for our scholars what is going well. So how can the 60-second strategies, in your opinion, really support teacher to scholar rapport, scholar to scholar, and scholar to teacher? All right, and then we'll stand up and give shout outs to our fellow colleagues to see how this can feel to be affirmed, appreciated, and noticed by your fellow colleagues. All right, gratitude. Now you're going to collect 3 sheets of paper and write 3 separate sentences that describe what you are thankful for and why. For example, you see on the screen, person. I am thankful for my mom because she believes in me even when I don't believe in myself. Hashtag my biggest fan. So there's 5 prompts at the bottom. It says person, place, food, things, and or anything. So collect 3 separate sheets of paper. Write down something you're grateful for. You have 3 minutes. This is your quick write. Quick write is a strategy that also allows scholars to just stop, pause, write, and get their thoughts out for short periods of time. It helps to build their resolve and to build their stamina. Once this activity is completed, and you have that, you can pause the video if you need more time, then sometimes our scholars need a movement break. They need a movement break. Sometimes this can decrease off-task behavior. Sometimes this can really support the needs of our scholars who need those movement breaks. Scholars have a lot of energy and they need to get that energy out, or perhaps they've been sitting for longer than 20 to 30 minutes. And so snowball toss can really only last a minute. It only is a minute of your instruction time. They ball up that paper, ball up that exit ticket, ball up that worksheet they just worked on, and they ball it up. You split the room in half into 2 teams. Their goal is to have the least amount of snowballs on their side of the room by the end of the 60-second timer. This is how this teacher rolls out this activity, but this doing it the way that we have here, everyone participates. and it really keeps all of the scholars moving quickly until the timer the timer sounds. And then it says no one person may hold 3 snowballs in their hand at once or hold the snowballs longer than 5 seconds. So start the timer and begin. This helps scholars not to hold all the snowballs and throw them at the last minute or the last second. It also helps to have some balance, that they can have no more than 3 snowballs in their hands at a time. Let's see how they do the 60-second strategy.
Gentlemen, what have we learned about stress from the week's discussion? Today we did an activity in my classroom where we talked about stress. We're gonna do like the snowball activity, okay? So I'm trying to get them to know how to identify stress and then know how to be able to adapt and cope and work with that. Gentlemen, go ahead and take 1 minute to finish up. After they wrote down their stress, they balled up the paper. I asked them, what should you do with stress? And they said, get rid of it. So let's get rid of the stress. And we had a snowball fight.
Everybody ready? Go!
The idea is that we're moving around, we're able to have fun, laugh, scream, be loud, and then have that discussion about stress. Everybody get a snowball. Afterwards, they unwrapped the snowball and they read what their peer was stressed about. Who'd like to begin?
I learned that stress can cause many things like depression.
They got up, it was interactive and it was hands-on. They were able to have a conversation with each other about things that they were dealing with.
I haven't felt good about myself in such a long time.
Which is promoting interpersonal skills and learning during the process.
Wonderful. So now that we see the 60-second strategy, now it's time for us to do our snowball toss. Difference is we're going to split the room in half. We'll have two different teams. We have split the classroom in half, or our room in half, and so the goal is to have the least amount of snowballs on your side of the room when the timer buzzes. You have a 1-minute timer right here.
The game begins in 3, 2, 1.
You continue to play the video. Once we're done, it'll be our chance to debrief. After the snowball toss, staff will collect the snowballs, ensure that each person has a minimum of 2. We're going to read and prepare to share one gratitude that speaks to them the most in the group. So out of the ones that you read, which one do you think is a really important one to share for this day? And so it'll be a person, a place, a food, or something that someone wrote down. That's powerful. All of these things are meant to help us build rapport. Then we have our dynamic practice, healthy connections equals rewarding relationships. We have inside-outside circles, stand in my shoes prompts, and I am angry, now what? These are some other things we can do to build rapport, just to share with you all. So doing an inside-outside circle, again, another cooperative learning strategies, allowing scholars to stand up. They form 2 circles. Pairs of scholars, they face each other and prepare to complete a task. And in this situation, they're going to share some really powerful prompts that really help us to get to know our scholars. So for us today, we're going to think about it from our professional lens. What are you good at professionally? What are you worried about in your profession? What makes you laugh at work? What scares you at work? Or what concerns do you have? Number 5, what makes you happy when you're at work? And then the last one is, what really upsets you when you're in a professional arena? This will help us to build rapport and relationships. If you know what you're good at, what makes you laugh, what makes you happy, right? Then that means you have the strategies to move yourself from an unpleasant mood to a more pleasant mood. And it helps us in our relationships with other people when we know what they're worried about, what they possibly are concerned about, and what they're upset about, and how to support them. So when a scholar is angry, then what, right? That means the scholar or our colleague is in the red zone. So we have to be able to keep and maintain rapport with our scholars. When they're angry or upset, we have to be able to coach them through strategies, the use of resources or tools to help the scholar get their frustration out in a way that's healthy, in a way that doesn't wreck and ruin all of their relationships. We don't want them to yell or scream at people or to punch or hit or kick something or someone. We don't want them using profanity and verbally abusing people or destroying resources or technology. And so when our brain is angry, right, or when we're angry, right, we need to tell ourselves to filter out the I hate you by saying it's okay to say, look, that you need a break. But right now, that's to say I hate you, that's just what does that contribute, right? I want to hurt you, okay? Hurting me is not going to change your situation or circumstance. And you are, and then name calling. All of these things, they ruin relationships. And so we have to help our scholars to be able to shift their thinking and shift their brain. You're being abusive right now because you're hurting. And instead, you want to focus on I need to talk, I need a break, I need to be alone for a while, or I'm disappointed. So there is a resource that you can use to gain access to these sentence stems that tells scholars what's okay to say when they're upset. That way, they can start removing these more negative statements that harm relationships out. This is also a reflection activity that scholars can do. Big awful feeling. They can identify their feeling. That's a very healthy approach to have. I feel this way when my brain thinks what, my body feels how, right? And then people who are this upset need someone's help to calm down. Who at school does a scholar have that can support them in the process? And who at home can they get help from? So to have the faces of those individuals that can provide support for them is really huge. And then this is another exercise. What do I do when I'm angry? And what should I not do? For some of our scholars, they need a plan. And they need a plan before something like this happens. And so what we do is give them a blank copy of a remote control, and this helps them to assess what do they do? What choices do they make, right? When I'm angry, upset, I need to do this and I need to stop doing these things. These are the things I typically do when I'm upset. I yell, I hit something or someone, I break something, I start to feel hopeless, like nothing's going to change, saying bad words, threatening people, and kicking people. So I want to stop these behaviors, but I want to start doing these behaviors. So our scholars need options. So them working with an adult after school to help them with some things they can do when they're angry. What is appropriate? They can walk away. They can ignore. They can take a deep breath. They can ask for a time out or a cool down time, right? They can do something positive with their hands, such as origami or color a mandala for 5 minutes until they cool down. They can think, I'll get through this, or that this is temporary. So the power of positive thinking. They can listen to music. They can do some stretch yoga for those who need music and movement. They can do some music and meditation, and they can do a workout with words. What is a workout with words? Giving them this alphabet. Perhaps they can spell out the word, that big emotion that they have. Let's say that emotion is anger. Have scholars release their anger with a healthy workout. Have them spell the negative emotion out. Let's practice together spelling out anger or calm. So if you want them to focus less on the anger, then have them spell out the word calm. So let's do that together. Stand up, ready, set, and go. We're going to start with the letter C. We're going to do 10 calf raises. So our legs, we should be stretching those calf muscles up on our tippy toes to stretch those calf muscles. Then we're going to go to A and do 30 arm circles. Then we're going to go to L. We're going to do 20 leg raises. We can sit in the chair and do these if we want, or we can stand and do these leg raises. And then we have M, 30 seconds of marching. Ready, set, and go. And this concludes our strategies for dynamic practice, how we build rapport in all of those unique circumstances. So now, as a reflection, complete the following 3-2-1 reflection about building a positive classroom community. What are 3 things you learned? What are 2 things you found interesting? And 1 question that you still might have. And this concludes our training session.